Dear students, today I have selected a topic on rules regarding separate and self-acquired property in Hindu Succession Act 1956. So, the subject is the Hindu Succession Act 1956 and the topic is rules regarding the separate and self-acquired property. You know, Hindu law, there are two types of properties. One is the ancestral property and the other is the separate and self-acquired property. Ancestral property is dealt under section 6 of the Hindu Succession Act, and now this section 8 to 13. From section 8 to 13 of the Hindu Succession Act deals with rules regarding separate and self-acquired property. This Hindu Succession Act 1956 is amended in 2005. It receives assent from President of India on 5th September 2005, and this Amendment Act came into force from 9th September 2005. Prior to 2005, if you look into the provisions of Hindu Succession Act 1956, there are lot of gender discriminatory provisions, particularly with respect to the women. So, this amendment 2005 was made with a view to remove all this gender discrimination, to protect the women's property rights in India. Thus, we can say that it is a revolutionary step in Indian legislation because it is protecting the property rights of the women 1956. You all know that India is a secular country. We have many religions, Hindus, Muslims, Christians and Parsis. When you look into the general law, the criminal law, constitution law, any law, it is applicable to all the religion. There is no discrimination, or it is applicable commonly to all the religions. But when you come to the family matters, each religion has their own law. Hindus are to be governed by the Hindu law. Muslims are to be governed by the Muslim law, Christians are to be governed by the Christian law, and even Parsis are also governed by their own laws, that is Parsi law. And these property matters are also a part of the family matters. So, Hindus are to be governed by the Hindu Succession Act 1956, Muslims are to be governed by the Muslim law of succession, and Christians and Parsis are to be governed by the Indian Succession Act 1925. So, now today's our subject is Hindu Succession Act 1956. So, this act is applicable only to the Hindus. The parties must be the Hindus. And this section 8 to 13 is applicable only to the male persons. Female may also have a property. They can also distribute their property either through a will or through interstate succession. For that, there is a separate sections 15 and 16 related to it. And this section 8 to 13 relating to the male person. So, when you are asked going to distribute any property, first you have to see whether he is a Hindus or not, whether he is a male or not. Then only section 13 is applicable. And also the property also to be seen. The property must be separate or self-acquired property. Three aspects is required: male, Hindu, and the property is separate or self-acquired property. Then only section 8 to 13 is applicable. If it is ancestral property, section 6, 8 to 13 is not applicable. So, these three conditions must be seen: Hindus, male, and separate property. Then there are two types of succession. One is testamentary succession and the other is interstate succession. What is testamentary succession? If a Hindu male gives his property to X or Y, Z, to anyone by making a will, through a will he will distribute his property to the persons to whom he wants. Such type of succession is called testamentary succession. That is, it is an important document. It establishes the intention and wish of the person to whom he wants to give his property. He can give his property to any person because it is his own earnings. There is no restriction. And he cannot say that this property is to be given only to the X, Y, or Z, or son, daughter, wife, or mother, not like that. He can give his property by making a will or through a will to any person, even to the orphanage, temples, even to the stranger also he can give his property. But he should mention it clearly in the testamentary document that he wants to give his property to so and so charitable institution. He wants to give his property to X, Y, Z. Then problem doesn't arise. So according to the words are in the will, according to the intention of the testator, the property will be given to those persons or to the charitable person or to the temple, etc. But the problem comes, a Hindu male dies without making a will, leaving a separate or self-acquired property. Without making a will, he died. Who has to take that property? Who are the heirs? How to settle the matter? So then the interstate succession will come into the operation. That is the section 8 to 13. Will decide who are the heirs. What is their value of the share? All these sections, this interstate succession will apply. So the interstate succession will apply only in the absence of making a will. Once he makes a will, interstate succession doesn't come into the picture. If he did not write a will, if he did not make a will, and died leaving the separate property, then section 8 to 13 will come into the operation. Now we will see what this Hindu Succession Act, that is section 8 to 13, says. First, when this section 8 will apply, whether the death of the Hindu male or any other thing. Is it essential that the male has to die after the commencement of this act? Not necessary. This Hindu Succession Act came into force on 17th June 1956. So the death of a Hindu male need not be after this death. That is, after 17th June 1956 is not necessary. The Hindu male may die even before the 17th June 1956. That is, he may die either before or after, it is irrelevant. Then what is required? Then when the section 8 is applicable, means the section 8 is applicable where the succession opens after the commencement of this act. Not the death of the male Hindu, when the succession opens is the question. The succession must open only after the commencement of this act, that is after 17th June 1956. Then only section 8 will apply. I will give one simple example. A Hindu male dies, before death I will say in a different way, a Hindu male settles his whole property to his wife for her life. A Hindu male settles his property or gave his property to his wife so that she can enjoy that property throughout her life. After the death of wife, the property was held by his daughter for her life. The Hindu male died 1933, that is before the commencement of that 17th June 1956. 56, the act came into force and he died in 1933. The wife died in 1945. But the daughter dies after 1956, after the date, that is 17th June 1956. So on the death of the daughter, the succession opens. So here the succession opens after the commencement of this act, that is after 17th June 1956. Section 8 will apply. See, it is not the death of the male dies before the commencement of the act. But the succession opens after the commencement of this act. After the death of the daughter died after the commencement of this act. So on the death of the daughter, the succession opens, the section 8 is applicable. Similarly, a Hindu male having a property and that property was in dispute before the court. Still the case was pending. There was a pendency of the suit. At that time, the Hindu male died. Again, section 8 will come into operation. So, this is what is required is not the death of a male person, but when the succession opens. The succession must opens after the commencement of this date, after this act. Then only section 8 will be applicable. And so far we are discussing about what is a separate property, what is a self-acquired property, what type of property. Suppose it is an ancestral property, we can say that it is inherited from great-grandfathers, that to father's side, paternal great-grandfather, that is ancestral property. We can say very simple definition. What about the separate and self-acquired property? What type of property is included in the separate and self-acquired property? So, it includes salary, or suppose if you do the business, his earnings, whatever it may be, his earnings we can say, instead of salary we can say his earnings, whether it is a salary or earning through the business, profits in the shares, and received anything by will or a gift, inheritance from any relative, received anything by way of prize or lottery. These are all considered as a separate or self-acquired property. Salary, profits in the shares, and received by will or gift, inherited by any relative, or received by way of lottery or prizes. These are all considered as a separate and self-acquired property, and if a Hindu male dies leaving any of these property, then this in interstate succession section 8 to 13 will apply, and it will decide who are the heirs, who can take the property. Even a coparsoner, you know coparsoner. Coparsoner is a right by birth in the ancestral property, great-grandfathers, and that coparsoner will entitled to take the share from the ancestral property, and at the same time he is empowered to have his separate property. A male Hindu may have a coparsoner property, that is ancestral property share, and also his own earnings. So, for his own earnings, section 8 to 13 is applicable, and for ancestral property, section 6 is applicable. But again in the ancestral property he will have some share. That share again is governed by the section 8 to his share. Only his share will be governed by section 8 to 13 of the Hindu Succession Act. So, these are, everything should be very clear. Suppose if the Hindu male having the ancestral property and separate property. For this it will apply section 6 and it will apply 8 to 13. Both can have. So, one person can hold both coparsoner's property and also is empowered to hold this separate or self-acquired property. And next we will see definitions. Heir. Who is a heir? Any person who is competent to succeed to the property of an interstate. A person who is entitled to claim or succeed to the property of the interstate, that person is called a heir. Heir may be any person, may be a male or female. What is required is whether male or female, any person, he must be entitled to succeed to the interstate's property. That person is called a heir. Interstate, you know, we have already decided a person who dies without making a will. That person is called an interstate. There are two more words, agnates and cognates. What is an agnate? One person is said to be agnate to another. You take example A and B. A and B. A is an agnate to the B. A is an agnate to the B when both are related by blood or by adoption. So, the relation must be either by blood or adoption. What is the other relation? There is one more relation, marriage. If you A marries B, the B's relatives, father, B's father, all they are related by marriage, they are not related by blood or adoption. So, here what is required is one person is related to another person When we can say A is an agnet to the B, both A and B are related by blood or adoption. First condition. Wholly through the male. Between A and B, all others are male persons. I will explain it with illustration later when we are dealing with the agnates and cognates. So, what is required is one is related to the agnet to the other, both are related either by blood or adoption, wholly through the males. Cognate. Cognate is everything is same, one small difference. One person is said to cognate to the another when both are related, same, either by blood or by adoption, not wholly through male. That is wholly through male, it is not wholly through male. Not wholly through male, wholly through males means the relation between A and B in between are all males. But here not through wholly male means some female intervenes. So, in between cognate A and B, some female anywhere in any line will interfere. If the female intervenes, it is called a cognate. If related wholly through the males, it is called a agnate. That is the only difference, agnates and cognates. Next, section 8, we will go to the order of succession and who are the heirs, how the property will be distributed under this section 8 to 13. The first section 8 says, if the Hindu male dies without making a will, this is the first and foremost condition. Only in the absence of the will, interstate succession will comes into the picture. You must very careful first see whether he is written a will or not. No will, then you have to apply interstate succession. So, a Hindu male dies without making a will. What is the order? First, the property goes to the class 1 heirs. In the class 1 heirs, there are certain heirs. A few number of heirs. The property will be distributed among the heirs. Again, there are rules how it is to be distributed, we will see later, but class 1 heirs will take the property. In the absence of all class 1 heirs, in the absence of all class 1 heirs, the property shall devolve upon class 2 heirs. In the absence of class 1 and class 2, there are no heirs of class 1, there are no heirs of class 2, then the property shall be divided among the agnates. There are no agnates also, no class 1, no class 2, no agnates. Last, the property goes to the cognates. There are no cognates. The property goes to the government estate. So, the first the property will goes to the class 1 heirs. Who are the class 1 heirs? So, up to 2005, there are only 12 heirs in the class 1 heirs. In the class 1, there are only total number of heirs are 12 up to 2005, before Amendment Act. There are only 12 heirs. After amendment, 4 more heirs are added. Actually, these 4 heirs are in the class 2 heirs. These 4 heirs are in class 2 heirs. They have transferred these 4 heirs from class to the class 1. They are not new one. Just they transferred these 4 heirs from class 2 to class 1. So, now at present there are old 25 and new 4. So, total there are 16 heirs in the class 1 heirs. 16 heirs. Today how many heirs are there in the class 1? 16. If any one of the heirs is present, only one heir is present, the whole property will be taken by that heir. Class 2 is not entitled. So, who are the heirs? First 12 heirs will decide. The first 12 heirs up to 2005 are son, daughter, mother, wife or widow, son, daughter, son's son, means son died, second son was died before the death of the interstate. So, son's son, son's daughter, son's widow, daughter's daughter, daughter's son, son's son's widow, son's son's son, son's son's daughter. These are the 12 heirs included in class 1 heirs up to 2005. 4 new heirs, who are they? Daughter's daughter, daughter's son. So that is DDS, DDD. You can we can say that daughter's son. Daughter's son, daughter's daughter. So again I am repeating once again, up to 2005 there are only 12 heirs. And after amendment 2005, 4 more heirs were added. They are daughter's son. Actually the word used in the Hindu Succession Act is son of a predeceased daughter of a predeceased daughter. Similarly, second, the daughter of a predeceased daughter of a predeceased daughter. These two are originally in the class 2 heirs. Daughter's son and daughter's daughter are in class 2 heirs. Now they have shifted to class 1 heirs. Similarly, 2 more other heirs. Daughter's son's daughter. Daughter of a predeceased son of a predeceased daughter. She is also class 2 heirs, shifted to the class 1 heirs. And the last is son's daughter's daughter. Daughter of a predeceased daughter of a predeceased son. Predeceased means they died before the death of the intestate. Predeceased, that is the meaning of that. So these are the 4 heirs, are not a new. They are already in the class 2 heirs. Now they have shifted to the class 1 heirs. Now at present we have 16 heirs. Now if you look into this table, it is very clear that from the table you can see mother, widow, son, daughter, son's son, son's daughter, son's widow, daughter's daughter, daughter's son, son's widow, son's daughter, son's son, and other heirs, son's daughter's daughter, daughter's son's daughter, and daughter's daughter's daughter, and daughter's daughter's son. These are all the 16 heirs are included in the class 1 of Hindu Succession Act.